Hey guys, so Charon has just dropped in CN Reverse 999 and I have been playing around with his kit, and honestly to tell you, I really like his kit. It's very simple to play. You don't even have to use much AP, he's just there. Okay, but here in this video I want to explain how he works, but in this case I'm using him from the survey for his character event. Here, survey. So he's at P2. So first of all, I want to explain to you that it doesn't really matter that I'm using it as P2, in the sense that his rotation doesn't really change because he's as AP friendly as he can be even if he's at P0. So I'm going to explain to you about his portray afterward. Here first I'm going to explain about his insight. Okay, so if you look at this is his insight. Insight 1 is basically, first of all, it says that you will receive amplified surge. So what is amplified surge? It changes how the pulsing field array works. So instead of level 1, level 2, level 3, now you just have level 1 and level 3. But to activate level 3 from level 1, you need additional 40 dynamo. If you put it in perspective, previously it was 50, 70, and then it will become level 3. So total 120 dynamo is required. Now you just need 90. So basically you are reducing that number down from 120 to 90 dynamo required. But don't worry, that's not a problem, because usually you need 3 rounds in order to charge level 3, but now because of the discount, you just need 2 rounds. So by round 3, you can full blast. So now the whole Dynamo team, as I mentioned in my previous video, the whole rotation for Dynamo team now is technically 4 rounds. For you to get to level 3, you need 2 rounds, then level 3 lasts for 2 rounds, reset back, 2 rounds to charge up, 2 rounds in level 3 again. Okay, so here it also mentioned, at the end of the turn, inject at least 20 dynamo into pulsing field, but that of course depending on how much dynamo Charon have. And for each overflowing dynamo, Charon acquire 1 shockwave. So usually you are throwing in a number of like 10, 20. So Charon will be getting like 10 and 20 shockwave. Okay? And for each overflowing Moxie from all allies, Charon will acquire 20 shockwave per Moxie. And I can tell you, if you are keeping the rotation at 4 rounds, you will have overflowing Moxie in this team. And for every shockwave, for every 40 shockwave, you will get 1 Consternation. Oh, sorry, before that, when an enemy dies, you get 20 shockwave. If an ally dies, you get 40. But of course, we are not playing the game hoping one of our ally will die. So in that case, if you kill an enemy, 20. But for me, if you are doing the proper rotation, especially if I'm going to recommend you any form of rotation, I will try to exclude, the enemies out of it. Okay, so do check in the video description below. I will tell you the rotation on how I would play him, and assuming that I do not have any enemy to kill. You still can maintain the whole rotation, but the more enemy you get to kill, which is good because Lucy also do more damage that way. The more enemy that you kill, then Charon will get even more shockwave, and that will make him stronger, because now for every 40 shockwave you get 1 stack of Consternation, and Consternation is basically the main mechanics of his kit. Everything revolves around Consternation. The more Consternation you have, the stronger the buff that he provides, the stronger the debuff that he inflicts on an enemy, the stronger the damage that he dealt, right? So everything will depend on Consternation. For Insight Tree, when any enemy enter the battle, the enemy will be inflicted with fear of death for 2 turns. And when entering battle, as in Charon himself, he received 20 Dynamo, 50 Shockwave, and 2 Moxie. For each spirit and intelligent allies, receive 1 extra Moxie to a maximum of 2 extra. So if you are P0, you come in, you get 2 Moxie, you have Lucy and Ulrich, there's another 2 Moxie. So you get total of 4 Moxie. So you just need to use 1 incantation to start with. And which incantation should you use? If just now, as I mentioned, he already inflict fear of death at the start of the turn. So that is the debuff. So all you need to do is basically use the buff. And then you will be set. You have the buff on your party, you have the debuff on the enemy. All you need to do is cast his ultimate and then sustain his ultimate. And one more thing to mention here for his insight, which is Simplified Ritual. Once the array enter level 3, Simplified Ritual, he will give it to himself and the ally in front. So if you have Lucy in front or you have Ulrich in front, depending on whoever that you want to be in front, you definitely want either one of them, not Ezra. Ezra is not going to use that much AP anyway, so Ezra will not be getting his ultimate that frequently. So it's either Lucy or Ulrich. And then basically he provides Simplified Ritual to the character in front and himself, and if that character uses an ultimate, it will not cost an AP. Okay, so to the point that Charon is not even like 0 or 0.5 AP, or, which is how I usually put it. If you play him right, he is technically negative because he provides that AP or the Simplified Ritual that when he himself or Ulrich or Lucy, depending who is in front of him, uses ultimate, it doesn't consume AP, so it's negative, right? So that makes him actually a very good character. Just because of that itself, to me, is already considered a very good character. And for his skills, alright, so first of all, his debuff. Check the full debuff, as in if you are at the max potential, which is 4 Consternation stacks, then you will get a maximum debuff out of it. So check the description below, as I will put that information there. Or I mean, you can see it from the screen, right? So let's see. Fear of death. Okay, so fear of death after being attacked, if HP is lower than 20% when status inflicted, and this damage cannot surpass 4,000 of Charon's attack, Charon will deal very high Genesis damage. I saw it is about like 1,000. Yeah, it's like 99999 Genesis damage to the enemy. Okay, which is not affected by stats up. And then the debuff. I'm not too concerned about the Genesis because if you're fighting against the boss usually have millions of damage, and to bring it to 20%, it's not like you're going to do it every turn. So just take this as a bonus damage. You don't really rely on it to actually kill the enemy. Alright, so here it reduces the enemy crit defense by 20%, and with each stack of Consternation, it decreases extra 5% up to 20%. So total is 40%. And when Consternation stacks, here the translation here is saying that it is fear of death reaches 4 stack, but I can tell you fear of death is not a stack based debuff, so it's just there on the enemy, you can't even stack it up. So it's actually referring to Consternation, and when Consternation is 4 stacks, you increase the damage taken of the enemy by 30%. So total is 40% crit defense and 30% damage taken. Okay, which is actually pretty good. And for his buff, okay, his buff is called, okay, here, Peaceful Soul. Peaceful Soul critical rate plus 30%, and again it depends on Consternation stacks. Each stacks of Consternation increase it by 5% to a maximum of 20, so you can give 50% to the entire party. And when you reach 4 stacks as well, you can convert 80% of overflowing crit rate to crit damage. And Dynamo team, everyone has very high crit rate, so you can easily convert them to crit damage. Okay, so total now, Charon is giving like 50% crit rate, 40% crit defense down, 30% increased damage taken by the enemy, and 80% conversion crit rate to crit damage. So this makes him a very, very, very strong support unit. Okay, now for his ultimate, New Blooms of Life. So it's a soft channel. When you use it, you instantly get back 1 Moxie. And you destroy all from the Void and Advice from the Dead, which is his S1 and S2. So you destroy all of it. For each you destroy, depending on the rank, rank 1 you get 20 Shockwave, rank 2 you get 30 Shockwave, rank 3 you get 50 Shockwave. And then you enter the Shadow of the Past status. When you're in this status, you will cast Shroud of Regret. It is a mass attack, and he does it at the end of the round. So the first time you do it is 0 Shockwave. You consume 0 Shockwave to trigger the mass attack. This mass attack is 150% mental damage and is affected by Ultimate Might, only 60%, but it can increase to 10%, as well as, the effect can increase by 10%, and as well as deal 50% more mental damage per Consternation stacks. So again, 60% Ultimate Might, increased by 10% per Consternation. So if you have 4 Consternation stacks, which everything now, if you see the debuff need 4 Consternation stack, the buff need 4 Consternation stack, the ultimate also relies on 4 Consternation stack to be able to utilize 100% of Ultimate Might. The thing is that I'm not sure if it increased more than that, like if you have 10 stack of Consternation, because the max stack of Consternation is 10. Okay, yeah, so I'm not sure if like you have 10 stack, that would be 160% Ultimate Might. Probably, right? 160% Ultimate Might if you have 10 stacks. And for each stack, it's extra 50% more mental damage. So again, if that's 4 stacks, that's extra 200. So he will deal 350% mental damage to all enemy, which is not bad. But if you have 10 stacks, then that's additional 500. So he deals 650% mental damage, which is still okay. And he does it every round. So it's good enough. And now for every round that you use the Shroud of Regret, which is the mass attack, you get back 1 Moxie. So assuming this case, you don't do anything. You use the ultimate, you get 1 Moxie. At that round, you will get another Moxie because you trigger Route of Regrets. So now you just have to wait another 3 rounds, and then you will get back the ultimate. And when you use the ultimate, it resets the Shockwave consumption requirement back to 0. So which means if you're considering a rotation of 4 rounds, which is what the array is currently rotating at, 2 round level 1, 2 round level 3. So similarly, for Charon, it's also 4 rounds, right? So 0 consumption of Shockwave, 50, 100, 150. So in total, if you want to sustain that, you don't even have to use any of his skills, and he can get back 5 Moxie, and then you reuse his ultimate. You need to be able to generate at least 300 Shockwave. So can you do it or not? That is the question now. So his whole mechanics now is relying if you can actually trigger or acquire 300 Shockwave. So we need to know, first of all, when you use his ultimate, he will destroy his S1 and S2. So I'm assuming if you are using First Melody and you are resetting incantation every round in order to use Lucy's, Ulrich's, every one skill, so you will be able to destroy 2, and that's actually 40. Okay, that's actually 40 Shockwaves. And apart from that, if you use his skill, you get 20. But I would say try not to use his skill to get that 20 if you can use other unit skill in order to generate more dynamo when the array is level 3. Because now if you generate a lot of dynamo, all that will become extra, okay, will become Shockwave. So you can accumulate to a very high number of Shockwave during that 2 turns when you overflow on dynamo, to the point that he can get several hundred of Shockwave. And also, if Lucy is attacking so often, she will overflow. Each overflow is also 20 Shockwave. So when you add that all together, especially if you can kill the enemy, right? You have some minions to kill, you get so many Shockwave that you don't even have to use his S1 and S2 anymore. You just have to use it one time. Okay? So since you have to use it one time, which is what I'm saying right here, I'm going to show you his Portray. Okay. Right. His Portray here, the first one, for each stack of Consternation, Charon has Peaceful Soul. Increase crit rate for an extra 7.5% to a maximum of 30. So he can give crit rate now at 60%. And when Consternation reaches 4 stacks, the ally Consternation converts 100% of overflowing crit rate to crit damage. So basically better buff. So it's not so important, right? If you don't have P1, it's fine. Now P2, when entering battle, receive 30 dynamo, 90 shockwave. So instead of 20 dynamo, he now have 30 dynamo, which increased the speed a little bit, but to me it's not really that critical. And then 90 shockwave instead of, I think, 50, so extra 40. So this helps you to start off, but if you know what you're doing and you are doing things correctly, you should have enough shockwave to sustain. So again, P2 may not necessarily be required. And here, one extra thing is 3 Moxie instead of 2. So which means at the start of round 1, you already get his ultimate. So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? If you need to use his buff, he starts with 4 and you need to use his buff 1 time, then you wait the next turn, you get the ultimate. If you have P2, you can use the buff directly and then you use the ultimate. So in that case, you just you can start off with his ultimate 1 turn earlier, so you can start attacking the enemy with the Shroud of Regret. But or else, if at P0, you are just being 1 turn slower. So later I'll try it out in a survey. I will try to play as if I'm using P0. So I will start with 1 buff and I will use his ultimate only in round 2. So we see how that goes, right? To me, I don't think it will be a big deal. So in that case, he is totally fine at P0. So, but anyway, here P3, when entering, Shroud of Regret now deal 400% mental damage. So it's a huge boost because initially it's 150, and then additional Consternation will increase 50% mental damage. But here you start right off at 400. If you have 10 stacks, then he will deal 1000% mental damage. AoE, very strong. And this attack is affected by 70% of ultimate might plus 10% for each stacks. So yeah, more damage. P4 for each stack of Consternation. Charon has Fear of Death, decreased crit defense for an extra 7.5 to a maximum of 30. So will be total of 50% crit defense down. And when reaches 4 stacks, increase damage taken by 50% from 30% up to 50%. Okay, so better support. P5 for each type of Consternation. Now Shroud of Regret deal 100% more damage. So at 10 stacks, 1000. And then P3 is 400, so he deals 1400% mental damage. and the attack is affected by an extra 12% ultimate might, right? So 10, 120 plus 70, so total 190% of ultimate might. Okay, so that is for his Portray. For his, so the last thing here is his Psychube. Okay, his Psychube is, this attack is 380. Okay, 380. And then for the, here is crit rate 16%. And then for the description, if the user is spirit, when the user is in channeling status, increase damage dealt by 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16%. Okay, so level 5, 16%. Increase the damage of Charon. And at the end of the turn, if the user has injected Dynamo to opposing field, okay, all allies increase crit rate damage by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, stacking up to 3 times. So level 5, 8, 16, 24. So 24% crit damage. If it's at level 1, then it will be 12%. Okay, so overall, it's pretty crazy. One more thing I forgot to mention is that Charon himself has penetration rate, and if you have high Consternation stacks, he can actually get up to 100% penetration rate. Sorry, if the array is at level 3, then he get additional 50%, plus the Consternation. Consternation itself is 5% penetration rate. So when you add that all up, he get 100% penetration rate, which is quite crazy. Okay, so let us look, at Charon's rotation. So if I'm assuming that I'm at P0, I do not have his ultimate. So I will need to use his buff first. Then only I will be able to use ultimate the next round. So we will do that. But here also, I will try not to use any of Lucy's incantation because she will quickly kill the enemy, and we will not be able to actually analyze the Charon's rotation properly. And also for your information, in terms of Shockwave, since it's at P2, he starts with 90. If you're at P0, you start with 50. So that is additional 40. So let's assume now in terms of Shockwave, he does have 90. And I mentioned earlier we need like 300 to have a full rotation for his ultimate and everything else that he does. Okay. Okay, 1. Again, I will use Astra incantation rather than Lucy's. Okay, so you see there's a debuff on the enemy, there's a buff on the party, and now I use the ultimate. Then now every round the ultimate will just keep extending his buff and debuff, so he don't even have to use it. And he destroyed 2 of his incantation, now he has 170. And this is the first round I use the ultimate, he will not consume Shockwave. Okay, no Shockwave is consumed. Now 10 Dynamo. I just noticed this boss has Moxie reduction. So I'm gonna like move one of this in order to compensate that extra loss in Moxie, just to show you his rotation, right? Okay, so now all of this Dynamo will be accessed because I'm already at level 3. So any more it will be accessed. So his Shockwave will just keep charging more and higher each round. And now you look at the Consternation stack. It's already at 10 stack because there's so much Dynamo that he's gaining. Alright, there's so many dynamo that he's gaining, so you don't really have to worry about him anymore. So you just have to wait 2 more rounds. Why is it 2 more rounds? Okay. Alright. Okay, I will overflow even more due to Ulrich overflowing in Moxie, but that's fine. At least we know that Charon will be able to get enough Shockwave to sustain himself. Now at this end of this round, he will consume 100. Okay. And now being the 4th round, he will contribute 150. So in the next round, we would want him to get back his ultimate so that we can refresh the Shockwave consumption requirement. Okay, and you also see the array has already reset back to level 1. Okay, so now there's no more overflowing. He won't be gaining more, but now he already have like over 400. And he consumed 150 of it, which is totally fine. Okay, so now going into his ultimate, I have more than 300. If I have like, 200, it's still fine because I'm going to get back more Shockwave when the array reaches level 3. Alright, so basically his gameplay is as simple as that. All you need to do is get his buff up, make sure everyone has this little flower on them, make sure the enemy has that fire on them, and all you gotta do is just use ultimate and then wait until the ultimate is back. Then you just use the ultimate again. And in that meanwhile, spam as much Lucy's ultimate and attack as much as possible. All right. Okay. Yeah, so that will be the demonstration of Charon's kit, how it works, how he sustained himself. P0 is totally fine. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching and have a good day. Alright, so for the last part of this video is their rotation. So the previous video that I posted, that is not the best rotation. I was just pressing button, but that's enough to kill everything. So here for their rotation, assuming that Charon here is P0, so I'm going to start off with his buff, and let's assume the ultimate is not there. Then I will do 1, 2, and Ulrich. Okay, priority here for this whole team is still Lucy. Lucy is the DPS for the team. Ulrich and Charon is the support sub DPS, and Ezra is the sustain unit. If you need any replacement, like who is important, to me, for me, I'm gonna say this again. Now that we have Blood Tie, we have Dynamo, you would probably want 3. You need to want at least 3 of them in one team. You will feel way more comfortable having that. Okay, if you're just having 2, it will feel a bit slow to get things to actually charge up. Then you do the attack, then you charge up. It's a bit slow with this 2. It's not that fun to play. So you want at least 3. So in this case, who should go? Okay, first of all, if you have a good sustain, you can always replace Ezra with another sustain, because Ezra is not going to do much here. Okay, if you're keeping the rotation of the array every 2 rounds, level 1, then every 2 rounds, level 3, Ezra don't really need to act. So you can just put another sustain in here. But if you have Ezra, so now you want to choose, you want to think, should you get Charon or not? Since Ulrich is free anyway, I would say if you bring out Charon, the team will still work. They will still do a lot of damage. But Charon is so fun. And it makes it so quick. Okay, to the point that I think if you bring Ulrich away, you still can keep up a very quick rotation. So yeah, you can either remove Ulrich or Charon and the team will still be fine. But again, Ulrich is free. So the decision here most likely will be, should I put Charon inside? So I guess you don't have to if you don't want to, but it's really good. Anyway, so I'm going to continue with the rotation. So just now I started off, and now I have 55 over 90. So next round, it's going to be level 3. So I'm going to use the ultimate. Okay, I want to use Lucy's incantation. Okay, and one more of Ulrich. And by level 3, Ulrich gain 2 more Moxie. Ulrich will get the ultimate. Okay, see? 109 over 90. Now we get level 3. Okay. Here I cannot do the rotation in Reverie because I don't have Charon. I try to get him, I get Recoleta P1, I lost to Recoleta and I have no pools in that CN account. So unfortunately I have to skip Charon, but again I don't have Lucy anyway, so it's fine. But I'm waiting for another friend to get Charon, then I will use Charon in Reverie to show you different gameplay in different stages and how good is he at keeping up with the whole thing. Alright, so here I'm gonna use ultimate. Attack, attack. And I have extra AP. If I want to be quicker, I can use, but let's just go Ezra. Or I can use Ulrich incantation first, which I should. Probably that would improve the inscription key that he get. So yeah, I should have gone with Ulrich because the access doesn't matter. I mean, the access Moxie would turn into Shockwave anyway, so it would be good for Charon anyway. But look at that, look at the damage, crazy. I'm actually surprised, right? Even if they didn't give Charon that no AP when using ultimate, he will still be very, very strong. And I have more than enough AP to spend. Okay, so every time you have any extra AP, just use more of Lucy's incantation. Here, no more. So after the next round, right, after the array ends, likely Ezra also will not have the shield, so I would actually use one of Ezra incantation here to provide shield to everyone. And then Lucy. and Ulrich. Okay, that's it. Alright, so that's the rotation. So from there, basically in the next round, you continue with whatever Lucy has. And make sure Ulrich has at least 3 Moxie before you hit level 3 array. Because you will get another 2, then you can directly use his ultimate. Then Ezra is just whatever. After the array ends, just make sure to use Ezra buff. So you get a shield up for 2 rounds. Because by the 3rd round, then the array is up, he will automatically cast the shield anyway. And then the shield will be for 2 rounds. Okay, so you can keep up with Ezra's shield perpetually. It will always be there. And for Charon, technically you don't have to do anything once you set him up. After you use his first ultimate, all you need to do is just wait for 4 rounds and use his ultimate again. So yeah, so that's it for the rotation. Very simple, and good luck with your pools. And for those in GL, if you are deciding to get him or not, I would really think if you really want the best Dynamo team, yes, go for Charon. Okay, go for Charon.